Hello, troublemakers. Welcome to Resolved Labor Podcast. I am your host, Lynn Fields. This week, we will be highlighting Hattie Canty. Hattie Canty was born June 10th, 1933. Shout out to the Geminis. She was born in St. Stephen's, Alabama, which is about 67 miles from Mobile. Her father died when she was 18 months old, leaving her to be raised by her mom and her grandmother, and they also took care of her and her three brothers. Shortly after high school, she got married and had two kids. She wanted to go to college, but she didn't have the money. She and her husband divorced in the 1950s, and she moved to San Diego with her kids in search for better opportunities. Now, while she was out in Cali, she met her second husband, James, and they had eight more kids. So now we're at 10. James was a construction worker, and in 1969, they moved to Las Vegas because, there was a big building boom at this time. Now, James worked construction, and Hattie was basically a stay at home mom, but she also worked part time as a powder room attendant. Now, some of us are old enough or not old enough to remember powder room attendants. So, powder room attendants are basically a staff member who is positioned in the restroom, and they usually have like toiletries there, like lotion and, smell good kind of, like a hand sanitizer or soaps, things like that. They'll have a hot towel for you to wipe your hand with if it's a more fancier establishment. Some restaurants and hotels and clubs, like they still have these people. So they also provided a level of security in the restroom as well. And then they upkeep the cleanliness of the restroom as well. So if you ever like run into one of these folks, just make sure that you tip them. So Hattie has these 10 kids, and she is, working part-time at Thunderbird Hotel. And this is despite her husband's lack of support, right? So Hattie says that as far as her working, her husband was not very supportive because he thought, quote, if a woman worked, he felt she was trying to be the man of the family, and that would mean she didn't need a man, end quote. James, I was really rooting for you. Like you got with this woman with these two kids, and then y'all had eight more kids, and then you go and say some, boy, bye. But anyway, so boy, bye is like not landing well because James died of lung cancer in 1975. Now, after James's death, Hattie worked as a janitor and a private maid for a time, but with 10 kids, like, she was like, yep, we gonna need some bennies, like some benefits, some health care and some benefits. In 1979, she started working as a housekeeper, and then eventually she was promoted to a uniform attendant at Maxim Hotel and Casino, which is, I believe it's now the Westin. The hotel was unionized with the Las Vegas Culinary Workers Union, Local 226. With this job, and being that it was unionized, Hattie immediately got the higher wages and the health care benefits and the pension that she so desperately needed. She became heavily involved in the union, and in 1984, she was elected to the board, to the executive board. And also in 1984, she was part of planning a walkout strike of the Las Vegas casino workers who demanded improved working conditions and better insurance. The strike lasted for about 75 days. In 1990, she was elected as the president of the Las Vegas Hotel and Culinary Workers Union Local 226. Now, even though this is 1990, you have to understand that the civil rights movement is an ongoing campaign, right? So we are still, Hattie is still trying to, she was born in 1933, and now we're in 1990, and so Hattie, still has that civil rights organizing mentality, in her blood. She says at one point she told herself, quote, Hattie, you've got to separate the civil rights movement from the labor movement. But you can't do that. Anytime I fight for anything in this labor movement, it benefits me in the civil rights movement. Hattie spoke on how, while working as a private maid, she connected the labor movement and the civil rights movement. She says, quote, "When I couldn't go in the front door of houses I cleaned, I saw immediately that civil rights issues were linked to union issues and why Martin Luther King Jr. had given up his life while trying to help the garbage workers organize." End quote. She was able to convince members that they could gain more if they moved forward together. As a result, by the mid 90s, maids and other hotel employees would earn more than double the average wage of any other service workers in other cities. Shortly after Hattie became president in 1991, she led the Culinary Union in what will become the longest strike in American history. 550 workers at the Vegas Frontier Hotel went on strike for better wages and treatment. Workers held the line for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 6 years. So, guys, kind of like at first I was like, really? But really, though? But then when you think about it, they were in Vegas. So, I guess the weather was like pretty conducive for a 7-day, 24-hour, round the clock, holding the line style deal. But what Hattie was most proud of with that strike was that no worker ever crossed the line. The owner, Margaret Elaldi, was finally forced to sell the hotel. It's estimated that she lost $1 billion, yes, with a B. The B lost a B thanks to the campaign. The Frontier's new owner, though, he walked in the door, he didn't want any parts of the find out with this fuck around. So he came in the door promising to provide back pay, honoring of the union contract and restoration of jobs to the strikers. Hattie was heavy on the unification and solidarity amongst the workers. She helped dissolve a lot of the racial animosity in the ethnically diverse union. Hattie was fiercely devoted to the labor movement and was, she was known for her come at me, bro, fiery leadership style. She spent the majority of her days on picket lines and leading multiple successful, highly publicized strikes. There's one claim, which we don't know if this is true or not, but the T is, and what the streets is saying, is that Hattie went and bought and released a swarm of cockroaches, and she released them into this hotel that they were picketing. I don't know if that's true or not, but Hattie girl, okay, the roaches, okay. She also went to jail about 5 or 6 times for union-related disobedience. That I can get down with. Up with civil disobedience, down with cockroaches. Okay. In 1993, Hattie established the Culinary Training Academy of Las Vegas. Their mission was, quote, to reduce poverty and eliminate unemployment by providing employability and vocational skills to youth, adults, and displaced workers, end quote. Whoever wrote that mission statement, they need to come to the altar. They need to come to the altar right now and give me their phone. That was just that was a lot of illities for me to, but okay, I'm moving on. Hattie served as president of her union for 10 years, just about 3 terms. She was very proud of her work. She asserted, quote, "I am living proof that a maid can own a home. She can buy her cars. She can pay taxes on that home. She can send her kids to college." Hattie was the embodiment of nothing that's about us without us is for us. I am so glad that in my research I ran across this woman. She was doing this work in the early 90s. I was in high school at this time, and I didn't even know that any of this was going on. But again, this is part of the establishment's way of keeping us from talking to each other, from learning about each other, from learning from each other. As I always say, education will be the savior of this country, of this movement. It will be the savior of us all. Hattie passed away at the age of 79 in Las Vegas in 2012. Now comes the part of the show where I give flowers to someone that's in the community or in the labor movement. This week, I want to give my flowers to Lucille Harris. Lucille Harris is my twin sister. Yes, now you know something about me. I have a twin sister. There are two of us. Lucy is my number one hype man. Any kind of outrageous tomfoolery, shenanigans, fuckery that, I want to do or that I'm even thinking about, like Lucy is that one that's like, let's do it. Like she's like, who is it going to hurt? Nobody. Let's get it. And I so appreciate her for that. Like, not only does she give me her encouragement, her support, like we need that kind of pouring into with us, because we have these great ideas, but when you have somebody there that's going to support you and have your back, like sometimes that's just the push that you need, even if it's just that one person. And Lucy is my one person. So thank you, sis. I love you. And if any of you would like to give a shout out or give flowers to anyone in your community, anyone in your local, write to us at resolvedlaborpod at gmail.com. We would be honored to read one of your letters on the air. And also don't forget to follow us, review us, share us. And again, if you don't like the show, tell someone you don't like and waste their time. As always, peace and solidarity. This week's episode of Resolved Labor Podcast is produced by The Create Place Studio. You can find them on all social media platforms at The Create Place STL. We Won is performed by Joe Jinks and written by John O'Connor. This has been Resolved Labor Podcast. As always, peace and solidarity.
Everybody come and join in the union. Begin. Stand together to overcome soon.